Hello, and welcome to episode 50 of Clairvoyaging.
Halloween edition.
Ooh. Wayfeather Media presents Clairvoyaging.
Happy Halloween.
Hello.
How's it going?
Happiest All Hallows Eve. Is that tonight? Is that Halloween?
Well, immediately opening up the episode with our lack of knowledge. That's fine.
If you're listening to this on Happy Halloween,
It's the official.
Hope it's real.
We reached out to the government. The official holiday is now called Happy Halloween.
Yeah. So when you're saying Happy Halloween to someone, you actually should be saying
Happy Halloween. Just wait for our Merry Christmas episode.
Oh boy. I'm okay. This is a slightly different format than our interview episodes and even our travel logs, right?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a mix. This is a mixed bag. So it's a little travel log. We met someone while we were traveling.
Yes.
Adrienne, you'll hear from her in a second.
Yeah.
And also we remember those user submitted stories, those listener submitted stories that we had Lauren collect. Well, we're going to play a couple of those as well.
Yeah. We got a couple of spooky stories. We thought it might be fun to get a little more ghosty, be on the side of like wonder instead of on the what is ghost.
What is ghost?
Yeah. So we hope you enjoy. Quick update. Grateful sent us some coffees, bought us some coffees.
Grateful?
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for you, Grateful.
I know. Yeah. Super nice. I love little emails that say thank you for doing what you're doing, and
a happy Halloween to you.
Yeah. Their title was Grateful. So
thanks, Grateful.
I'm grateful.
Me too.
And if you want to buy us coffees and help keep this little show moving along, buy me a coffee /Clairvoyaging podcast.
Or skip on over to our Patreon page. There's some extra content from this episode too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into it. Right.
Okay. Take us there.
All right. We traveled to Duluth, Minnesota for a film festival in early October. And we didn't know exactly, it was for our pilot, which is called Remixed. And we knew we just have to go. And while we were there, during our screening, right after our screening, there wasn't anyone there to do the Q&A. And this lovely woman stood up and said, it doesn't seem like there's going to be anyone to do your Q&A, but I'd be happy to do it. I'm a filmmaker myself. We all went up there to answer questions. She facilitated a really great Q&A. She is so lovely.
Imagine the kind of person it would take to just be an audience member at a screening of a bunch of filmmakers you don't know. And then she said, well, I can be a moderator.
Yeah.
And she did it. And then afterwards we're like, why are you so cool?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out she's even cooler than we thought.
Yeah. We ran into her an hour later at lunch and we were like, when's your screening? It was that day. We went to see her drama that was a pilot in the film festival. It's called This Boy's Vita, Made in America. She was the director. Her name is Adrienne Acevedo Lovette, and she's amazing. So we went to her screening and we were like, okay, this is an incredible story.
It's so good.
Incredible pilot. So well done.
Yeah, go catch it if you can, please.
And then we just became friends with her. And she was like, I'm going to rent a car. Do you guys want to come with me and go see the town of Duluth? And we were like, yeah.
Not just the town of Duluth, but a potentially haunted mansion in Duluth.
Yeah.
And then along the way, we discovered that Adrienne has some mediumship abilities.
Yeah.
And
I was like, of course. Okay, that's why we met you. That's why
yeah.
Not that that's why we met, but it was just so the synchronicity was really strong. We had such a great time just driving around, and like she got a car and drove us around.
Yeah,
and
we made an immediate friend and went on a road trip.
Yeah.
I'd like to toot Adrienne's horn again.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is she an amazing director and amazing editor, she's also an actress that you might have seen in some stuff.
Oh yeah.
So go check out her IMDb, but she's been in The Penguin. She's been in Better Call Saul. Stuff you've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's really cool. We'll link all of her stuff, all the good stuff in the show notes.
So let's set the scene real quick.
Go ahead.
Join us. We're in Duluth. It's the day that we're leaving, going home, and we need to kill some time before our flight. So we hopped in this rental car with Adrienne. I popped on microphones on everybody, except for me, because you're tired of hearing me. I know it. I know it. And we talked just natural conversation, just had little chats about intuitive abilities, spirits, all that stuff. And then we take the mics inside the mansion, and we just decided to try and feel it out, see what was going on. So come hop in the car with us right now.
Buckle your seatbelt. So did you always see like spirits when you were a kid? Did it freak you out?
Yeah, I did. Oddly, it didn't freak me out.
Really?
Yeah, no. I guess because the spirits that I was seeing weren't negative beings. Like they didn't have like a negative intention. So yeah, it was never like, get them out of my room.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I think the weird thing is that I started seeing them more in middle school and high school. So I
really?
feel like usually it's the opposite, where little ones are the ones that are seeing the spirits, and because they're still very connected to that part of the world in a sense, like the spiritual world. But I don't know. For me, it kicked up a bit more in middle school. One time I was in my house, and we had a piano. It makes it sound really fancy, but I begged for this piano forever. And she got it for really, really cheap. It was like, just stand-up piano. And I went into, it was like in the dining room-ish, if you can call it a dining room. And I went into the dining room, and there was a little boy like huddled underneath the piano.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was kind of that.
How old were you?
It's more like surprising. I was in middle school.
Wow.
And I was like, hey, what's this kid doing here?
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know if the house itself, the house was built in the 70s.
Yeah.
I don't know the history of the house, or if anyone had passed, or what the case may be. Sometimes it's not even that the spirit is from that home. Like sometimes it's just kind of like following you around.
Yeah.
Or senses that you can sense them, or, it's really weird. Like it's almost, I can't even explain the rhyme or reason as to why they like to appear when they do.
Yeah.
Because it's, like I said before, my mom is the one that hears them, and I'm the one that sees them. Occasionally I'll hear something, but I can't like hear them. So it's almost like they're silent beings just wandering around. And it's not like they approach me with a mission. You know what I mean? It's just, they're just there, and they make their presence known, and I acknowledge it, and that's about it. If it's a spirit that's causing an issue in a house or in a location or whatever, and someone's like, hey, can you help me get the spirit out of here? I'll try my best, I'm just very frank. So
she was telling me that her mom had a spirit like in her bedroom.
It was in the house. Yeah, it was in the bedroom. It hung out in the bedroom, but it was in the living room area. So I had visited my mom's new house. It was back when I was in college, and I came back home, and she lived somewhere different. And so I was sitting in the living room, and I saw all of these orbs and wisps kind of just flying about. And I asked my mom, I was like, Mommy, do you have any like spirit activity here? And she was like, yes. He gets in my face when I'm sleeping.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't let me sleep.
And she would just hear it?
She would like feel his breathing on her face.
Ugh.
And then I guess he like kind of taps her, and he was very active when she was sleeping. And so she was super bothered. So she wasn't sleeping in the bedroom because of this spirit. And she was sleeping in the living room. So I was like, well, let me sleep in the bedroom. Let me see what I see, and let me see if I can get him out of here,
Yeah.
And so lo and behold, it was very quick. I went to her bedroom, and in the middle of the night, I woke up, and there was an old man staring right in my face.
Wow.
And he had like a beard, all gray hair, a white old man with a mustache and beard. And he was just staring in my face. And I told him, quite frankly, like, this isn't your home anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to be here anymore. Go towards the light. There's nothing for you to do here, and after that, he went, and my mom didn't have any problems.
It's funny how easy it is to...
Yeah, it can be very easy.
Yeah. People
it's almost like
just live with it instead of
they were just
talking
lost.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah, they were just lost. Just kind of like, what do I do? And maybe that's why he would put his face on people's faces, Like why he was like, hello, but maybe he was trying to he didn't seem like the energy around that. It didn't seem negative. It wasn't like he was a killer ghost or something.
Right.
It was very much like he was someone who probably had Alzheimer's or dementia and was lost. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And there was no guidance, and he was just kind of like, help me, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so I think and that happens sometimes. There's very few times where I've encountered a negative being in a violent manner. And one of the instances was I was in high school, and we took a trip to New York because we were, I went to high school in Florida. And so we took this like college tour trip, and we stayed at this we called it the Shining Hotel, but it was because it was a scary, creepy hostel hotel.
Yeah.
Where there was only one bathroom for the whole hallway. And so we're all teenagers, and we were all like freaking out. There was like padding on the wall and stuff.
Oh.
So in any case, my friend who was my roommate for that room likes to sleep with the TV on. I can't handle anything on. Like I funny enough, I have to sleep in complete darkness with no lights, no TV, no nothing.
Yeah.
Where, so most people want some kind of something, I guess.
Yeah. So
we were laying in bed. She turned on the TV, and I was like, oh, please, can we just like sleep with the TV off? And she's like, okay. So she turns it off. And I'm just like laying there, just kind of getting settled. And about 5 minutes later, I turn my body toward her, and standing next to her was this shadowed man figure.
Oh, God.
And already, like, shadows, okay, it's fine, but there was a negative energy to it.
Ooh.
And he was just staring down at her.
Ugh.
And then he noticed me staring at him and started running around the bed to get to me.
Stop.
And I literally like hit her. I was like, Corinne, turn on the TV. Like I was like, and then he kind of like disappeared. And she's like, what is it? And I was just like, nothing, never mind.
Oh my God.
It was just noises or something. And I kind of, and then I told her the day after, and she was like, what? And she was like freaking out. And all my friends were freaking out. They're like, we don't want to stay in that hotel.
Like,
and
there's a shadow standing over you.
Yeah.
It's so horrible to hear. My God.
I was like, but she had told me that she had always some kind of shadow entity around her. And I was like, oh, that's funny.
Were those hers?
Yeah, there was like someone that was looming around her. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's interesting.
We got out of the car and started walking towards Glensheen Mansion. This is a beautiful historic estate that sits on 12 acres of property on Lake Superior. Built in the early 1900s for the wealthy Congdon family, this 39-room mansion became infamous in 1977 when the elderly Elizabeth Congdon, the last surviving member of her family, along with her nurse, Velma Pietila, were murdered on the property. This is a tragic story that has been written about extensively, but today, we're just exploring and seeing if we can sense anything in this estate-turned museum. There were other people exploring the property while we were there, so if you hear any disembodied voices, they're probably very embodied. As we walk in, we're greeted with a welcome video that is lacking the details that we came for.
Glensheen was added to the National Register of Historic Places on August 15, 1991.
Okay.
They don't talk about the murders.
No.
Like, not at all.
They've left it out of the tour.
I know. It's so funny. Well, we will talk about it.
We will talk.
At this point in the day, we know that Velma had been attacked on the grand staircase, but we weren't sure which of the 39 rooms Elizabeth was murdered in.
Can we find out where the murders happened?
So one was at the stairs. One was at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
Right? Because she got like
That's
hit
right.
with a
That's right. That's what she said.
candlestick.
I feel like we should look just in case. But
Oh yeah.
it sounds very Clue-like. When she said
I
the
know.
candlestick, I was
know.
like,
Oh my God.
oh, was that the weapon of choice back then?
Yeah. Not the rope.
Yeah, right.
The wrench.
Or the wrench. Candlestick in the stairway.
The grand stairway, so probably the big stairs.
Okay. And where else?
And then in one of the bedrooms,
bedrooms.
she was smothered with a satin pillow. She was 83. Why did you just smother an 83-year-old?
Wasn't it someone like crawled into the window or something?
Oh, yeah.
The stairs are around the corner. See if you sense anything.
At the risk of sounding like Ron Howard, they didn't sense anything. But they would.
If you were a Congdon or a guest of theirs, you could have come to this floor for one of a few reasons. If you had a contagious disease, you might be quarantined in the infirmary for the length of your infection.
That actually makes sense then, because it was like I was feeling like a hard time breathing.
Me too.
Like I had to like
As soon
really
as we
grasp
got-
for air.
Yeah.
Like up the stairs. So it makes sense that this is a place where people were sick and
Yeah, I felt like weirdly
struggling
that
in
same
some
way.
capacity.
Yeah. This is one of those photos where like they tell you to look at it and then they go like, this man was never on the team or something. If you count how many players. Next stop, the attic.
It's very cool in here.
It is colder.
Okay, maybe it's just because it's an attic, but I just like feel creepy vibes in here.
It sounds like storage.
Like just looking all the way down that way. I don't know. Something about it makes me like, ugh.
Wow.
You're right. Up here, I feel this rocky boat, like, wah, wah, you know, like I'm on a boat. You're right.
Yeah.
I can't tell if it's the floors being like uneven, maybe because of the old house,
I get like
or
a
just the energy of
Yeah.
this top floor.
I get like a weird like. It's more in my head kind of, and less in my body.
That's
Yeah.
exactly how it feels for me too.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's what just the energy
Yeah.
of the top floor. Probably more conflict up here than down there for some reason.
Not to make this about me, but I really wasn't feeling a single thing. Lauren and Adrienne were both getting this rocky boat feeling and feeling uncomfortable in certain areas. But then we made our way into the master bedroom, which was a giant, beautiful room. But something was kind of off. Something is sad about this room. Tell me, what is it?
Yeah.
It's heavier. The air is
Yeah,
heavier
it's definitely
here.
Heavier.
I don't know what, I don't know if there was a killing here, but because what was the other?
It was.
I think it might be Elizabeth's room.
Oh,
Did we go that one yet?
Not yet. But yeah, I don't know.
See, I always feel like it's easier to sense thing at nighttime. I think the energy is just different, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
we're quiet.
There's less people, and like the music's off, and like, you know.
Yeah.
We continued walking through the house, but nothing felt quite like that master bedroom. I lost patience and finally just looked it up. I just use ChatGPT.
Oh.
Go research for me.
Just get straight to the source.
AI help.
Yeah. Okay, she was killed in the master bedroom.
Oh, so that was the sad one.
That was the sad one, huh?
The sad room.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, because I imagine she moved to the master bedroom by that point, you know?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. I said maybe she was in the master by then.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That air felt thicker, too.
Yeah. We like couldn't figure out why.
Oof.
Which makes sense. Like, if we're not, we felt like we couldn't breathe in the room where she was killed by, you know.
Suffocation.
Yeah.
Ooh, got chills.
Elizabeth was found suffocated in her bed. She had taken residence in the master bedroom. Elizabeth's adopted daughter, Marjorie Caldwell, and her second husband, Roger Caldwell, were linked to the murders, with Roger eventually convicted, but his conviction was later overturned. Marjorie, although charged with conspiracy, was ultimately acquitted, but would go on to commit other crimes that she would eventually get busted for. We ended our self-guided tour of Glensheen Manor and first ever extremely casual clairvoyaging ghost hunt, having made a few conclusions. At the time that we were there, broad daylight with other tourists and fun music in the background, the energies residing in the mansion were subtle, but we were all able to pick up on them. Lauren and Adrienne sensing it with their bodies, and me with my emotions, like the delicate flower I am. Although this experience was subtle, I am encouraged by our development and the fact that all three of us were able to provide experiential confirmation for one another. We're doing it, guys. We're developing our intuition. We all hopped into the rental car, strangely exhausted and very ready for lunch. If you want to see some of the photos we took while we were at Glensheen, or hear some more ghost stories that Adrienne shared with us at our post-hunt lunch, head over to our Patreon page, link in the show notes. Now, while we're on the subject of sensing a haunting presence, I'd like to share a listener-submitted story with you from a listener who wishes to remain anonymous. Read by Lauren.
As far back as I can remember, our downstairs hallway felt creepy to me as a kid. Like the dark was darker than it should be at night. When I'd head to bed, I found myself running between light switches, turning off the light at the top of the stairs and rushing down the hall, convinced a hand was going to reach out and grab my shoulder. Somehow my own room always felt safe. Like the second I stepped back into the light, nothing could grab me. But whatever, right? Aren't all kids at least a little scared of the dark? I really didn't think that much of it, that I didn't seem to outgrow this fear of the dark. We'd even talk about it as a family. How if you were doing dishes, wasn't it strange how sometimes you'd see someone out of the corner of your eye in the living room? Or how the living room itself just felt different if you were up late alone? It wasn't until high school, when I cat sat for our next door neighbor, that I really started to wonder about the feeling in our hallway. I was wrapping the cat food back up, just about to head out, when I felt the exact same dread that hit me running from light switch to light switch. I glanced down the hall at a back door and was convinced there was something standing there, watching. Sufficiently creeping myself out completely and feeling like a big baby spooked by a coat rack at 15, I scurried out of there. But I started to dwell on it. Our house was shimmied in between the two homes that had been there originally, and I couldn't help but wonder if something else had stood on the original property line. A few years drifted by, still hurrying between light switches, but nothing seemed to get any worse. It all came to a peak my sophomore year of college. 19 was hard, and I came home for the winter break that year feeling sad, angry, and worn out. But I couldn't sleep. When I went to turn off my light, I felt absolutely convinced there was something in the corner of my room, watching. Morning would come, and I'd feel dumb and silly. I was wasting my break, feeling scared of the dark. People told me about sleep paralysis, and it all seemed to fit. So I'd go to bed, head full of rational explanations, and I wouldn't be able to turn off the light. I told my mom, who's always loved all things spiritual, and a woman at work told her if it was a spirit, ask it what it wanted. Again, I went to bed with a plan, and again, I kept a nightlight on. At 2 a.m., the feeling in the corner of my room didn't seem like something that simply had a favor to ask. As I neared the end of my break, I felt exhausted and frustrated. This was supposed to be a respite from the stress of school, and suddenly I was dealing with ghosts and ghouls? No, I decided I was being ridiculous. That night, as the hours ticked by, I decided I was done feeling like a kindergartner and flipped the light off. Almost immediately, in the darkness, I felt like a face was right next to mine. I felt an icy dread, unlike anything I've ever felt before or after. I have no idea if I even uttered a whisper, but I screamed with everything I had in my head. I can't help you. You have to leave me alone. And it was gone. The dread that had lingered there for years, that had slowly inched its way into my room, gone. There are days I'm convinced it was all a series of bad dreams, and there are days I think about how during our darkest days, we seem to attract people who wish to harm us. And what else? What else is pulled towards us? But maybe most importantly, the lesson is that the supernatural movies can go on and on about spirits with unfinished business. Let me tell all the other sad 19-year-olds out there, you don't owe the feeling of dread hiding in your closet any favors.
Our last story is from psychic medium Molly Frank, who started having experiences before she even recognized her own intuitive abilities. Here's Molly.
I had a friend whose parents were moving out of their house of many, many decades, and she contacted me through Facebook and said, I have a lot of antiques, and I know that you love antiques, which, by the way, I have a ton of them. And I would love for you to come over and have a peek and see if there's anything you want. So I went over there and I picked up a few items. And in the meantime, she was rifling around in the other room, and she comes out right before I left and says, hey, I've got this autograph book I thought you might like. I guess in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that was sort of a nice little gift you would give people. Like maybe they're going away and everybody would sign a page and some little sentiment or whatever. And I started to look through it. It was really kind of beat up, but beautiful. And it had a beautiful cursive, very fancy looking penmanship, obviously done with a fountain pen, and all these great little poems and phrases and stuff that probably were popular in the day or whatever, and sentiments. And as I read through the book, I realized whoever this was, his name was Mr. Strever, and he was leaving his little farm community, I believe in Iowa, and he was moving to somewhere else, and he was going to teach. So everybody was giving him sort of a good luck, goodbye. So I thought that was kind of nice, and she had picked him up at some other garage sale or whatever, so I took it home. When I got home, my stepson, Christopher, looked through it. He was really into antiques too, and I was showing him, and we thought that was really neat. When Christopher and I looked through the book, there were some photographs in there, tintype negatives. So there were pictures of Mr. Strever and his family, and they were in front of a car, and they looked like they were fairly well off. And those were kind of cool, and we were looking through them, and I was enjoying that aesthetic. We put it on the bookshelf and just forgot about it. In the middle of the night, I felt this weird, prickly feeling on my face, and I thought, what's going on? So I turn over and I look, and my husband is sitting up on the side of the bed, and I look, and he's wearing this fedora, like a hat from, like an old man's hat. And I thought, oh, that's weird. First of all, he would never wear that. But on top of that, it just was weird. And as I was blinking my eyes trying to focus, I realized he wasn't in focus. He was sort of fuzzy, like I could almost see through him. And I said, is everything okay? And when I did, he turned over in bed. I realized that was not my husband. I knew I had psychic ability, but I just didn't, like I was afraid and I didn't totally get it. I get up to get some water or something because I was kind of shooken up a little bit. And as I did that, I hear my dog in the living room kind of whimpering. So I walk out there and there she's sitting at attention, staring at the bookshelf where the autograph book was. And I thought, oh, that's weird. I didn't know what she was looking at. And I thought, okay, and I walked over and I looked. And as I walked over there, I felt this weird, it felt like I was walking through cobwebs. And I knew that there was not possibly that many cobwebs in my living room, in this open space hitting me in the face, right? So I thought that was really weird. I'm walking back to my bedroom and I hear Christopher's bedroom door close. And I thought, oh, maybe he's up. I don't know. Went back to bed. Next morning, I'm sitting in the dining room and he says, hey, Mom, why did Dad check on me in the middle of the night wearing that hat? So the next day, Christopher gets home from school and we're just sitting on the couch having a snack, chit-chatting and whatever. When out of the blue, my Edison player, which is like one of those phonographs, the Edison starts playing. I kid you not, it starts playing a song. And the one I have is in really, really good condition cosmetically, but the mechanics of it were pretty beat up. And it's a little bit rusty, needs a new needle, the mechanisms get stuck, so you can't really play it. I mean, I've tried, you can't. And in order to play it, you have to wind it up, with like a hand crank. And then you've got to flick this little switch. You got to put the needle on, it's a process. So we both were like, oh my gosh. I mean, even he knew that was very weird. So we kind of both said, oh, it's Mr. Striever. Mr. Striever just kept popping up. He would turn the microwave on and off. He would turn the TV on and off. He would open and close cabinets. He would, wake the dog up in the middle of the night. We saw him walking down the hallway here and there. And it was crazy. And we were pretty darn sure it was from that autograph book. We felt like that book had something to do with it. I ended up getting a divorce. And the book ended up going into storage. After a bit, I started dating a guy and we ended up living together. And when we moved into our last apartment, I found the autograph book as we switched storage units. And I told him the story about the book. And he said, well, why don't you bring it home? I want to see it. And I said, sure. I just brought it home, thought it'd be fun to look at it. It was Halloween. Within 24 hours, we experienced our cabinets opening and closing right in front of us. Not like we heard it and ran in the room. We were watching it happen. We had a plastic skeleton sitting on a shelf. And when the doors of the cabinets opened and shut, then the microwave beeped and went to 11:11. And then a few seconds later, the skeleton literally jumped off the shelf, fell on the floor. We weren't anywhere near there. There was no draft. It all kind of happened within the same few minutes. I had a Himalayan salt lamp, and I thought, well, I'm going to put that by my bed, on a soft glow or whatever, and hopefully that'll keep anything from waking us up. I went to bed and woke up in the middle of the night, and there is my Himalayan salt lamp glowing and dimming and glowing and dimming and glowing and dimming. And I thought, oh, maybe something's wrong with the power. My boyfriend turns over and noticed it, and he says, tell your ghost friend to stop that. So I said, Mr. Striever, we're trying to sleep. Can you do that another time? And the lamp shut off. Haven't seen Mr. Striever since.
Molly sent us some pictures of Mr. Striever, and that is a sharp-looking gentleman. My opinion, I don't think there's anything to worry about. You can always trust a guy who wears the same hat every day. Head over to our Patreon to check out the pictures. It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. Molly is going to be a guest on the show in the coming weeks, so let us know if you have any questions for her. One question in particular stands out for us. Did she ever bring the book back out? Thank you for listening. Visit www.clairvoyaging.com for show notes, merch, or just to say hi. If you'd like to support our journey, visit www.buymeacoffee.com/clairvoyaging. This has been a production of Wayfeather Media.